Good evening, boxing fans. Welcome back to Enter the Ring Live. It is Sunday, October the 24th, 2021, and I'm your host, Mighty Mike. And I'm with AJ. I lost your volume. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
How about now?
Yeah, we can hear him. There he is.
What the hell did I just do?
God damn
There's
it,
always
AJ.
some glitch. I hit something.
You hit the wrong button. Hey, anyways, it's Sunday, the 24th of October, man. This month has just flown by. We are one week away from Halloween. Halloween.
Yeah, it's right here, right around the corner.
We are anxiously awaiting our brother, Eric the Red. I know he was a little bit under the weather and he's probably busy with his business, but he's going to be joining us hopefully very soon.
Yeah.
What's going on, dude?
Oh, man. Just trying to get through these, everything that's been going on. It's just been, I feel like, it almost feels like you're trying to catch your breath all the time. You just don't have that moment. You just don't have at this time, at this chapter in our lives, it's like you don't have that moment to just sit back and drink a beer and just relax and watch the birds chirp and stuff. It's one thing after another, man.
I know, it's sad. Sometimes I sit back and I think and I go, oh, where the hell did the last 20 years go? Jesus Christ, can the clock slow down? This month has gone by. This month is just completely flown by. I mean, it's already going to be the end of the month. Next week is the end of, and we're going to be October and then end of October. And then we get into Thanksgiving season, which I'm not ready for. And then Christmas. Oh,
yeah. It's just one after the other, man. It doesn't stop. And just like boxing, there's always a new peril or a new controversy or a new dilemma or a new whatever.
Yeah.
But hey, before we jump into the fights and stuff, I want to talk to you about something real quick that I read today, and I was completely unaware, and I felt like a complete idiot. And I don't know if I'm saying it right, but there's a new division that the WBC created.
Yeah, Bridgerweight.
The Bridgerweight, yeah.
And they just had a fight.
Yeah. They just had a fight yesterday in which they, I guess they crowned somebody or whatever. So that's something that we've been kind of talking about where, so is heavyweight got to kind of look at the super heavyweight division in a sense?
Well, I think it's gonna have to stand the test of time. It's probably right now it's in its infancy, so they're gonna see if people respond. I mean, me personally, I don't mind another division, especially like you said, if you've got guys 210 pounds fighting guys that are 270, it's kind of not fair, The heavyweight division is too broad. It really is. So there's nothing wrong with a super heavyweight division, or just like I said, just keep it as the heavyweight and then alter the weight. I don't know, the weight limitations for this Bridgerweight. The only thing I can see there'd be a problem is historically they're going to go, well, so and so was the heavyweight champion at so and so weight division, whatever. But things evolve and change. If you want to call Rocky Marciano at 5'10", 5'11", 185 pounds a heavyweight, hey, call him what you want to call him. That was heavyweights then.
That's what I was gonna say. Are they gonna alter history to kind of like make changes and exceptions? Because I don't like the name. It doesn't make sense to me. I kind of looked at it and I go, it didn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm just being stupid, but
yeah, because so there's the light heavyweight limit's 175, cruiserweight is 190. So between 175 and 190. So this Bridgerweight, I'm guessing, is 191 to what?
224
to 224.
224.
But you could be a heavyweight at 215.
Yeah.
So this is something that the WBC is just trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. You can look at it like, hey, they're trying to get more sanctioning fees. They got a lot of fighters in and around that weight. A lot of good fighters in and around that weight. I mean, look at the heavyweight champion of the world right now, Alexander Usyk, holder of 3 of the 4 belts. He's 200. What did he weigh in for this last fight? 224, 226 or something like that.
Yeah, but he could easily make this
Bridgerweight
and do that. And so, I mean, if he beats Fury, I mean, I could see Usyk doing something like dropping down and winning that title and that one and holding both titles. I don't know if they're allowed to do that, but it just depends, I guess.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and jump into this weekend's action. I mean, when I say this weekend, the only real fight card, there was a fight card that took place in Australia that it was just, I don't want to call it low level. I don't want to disrespect the fighters, but it was nobody that we had heard of. And I just kind of ignored it. But the fights on ESPN Plus yesterday, I don't know. Did you want to talk about any of the upcoming? I mean, I wouldn't mind talking a little bit about Nico Ali Walsh. I'm just going to call him Nico Walsh. Sure. I mean, I don't even know if his actual name is really Nico Ali or if he just added that for marketing purposes. But he as a lot of people probably know, he's the grandson of the late Muhammad Ali. You know my feelings on this. I don't dislike the kid at all. I think the kid is actually he's decent for a kid who's just starting out. I mean, he's not the worst fighter that I've seen with two fights.
Well,
I've
not
seen a lot
according
worse.
to Andre Ward and Timothy Bradley, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, yeah, but he took on a kid that had a record of what 2-0, and the first round he got caught with some punches. He got caught with some counter right hands and even a left hook or two. And I thought, ooh, this could get interesting. And then in the second round, he finally found a way to get that right hand through, and he ended up dropping the kid. I can't remember the kid's name, and I don't want no disrespect to the opponent, but it just wasn't that
Wisely. His last name was Wisely.
oh yeah, it just wasn't really on my radar. It was like, okay, well, I guess I got to sit and watch this fight to get to the main event.
Yeah.
He's not a bad kid. He's very well spoken. It's very obvious that they're putting the cart before the horse a little bit with the kid, because they're talking about, and he keeps saying, I want to carry on with my grandfather's legacy. Well, I mean, I mean, I don't even know, AJ. I mean, I'm rubbing my head because it drives me absolutely ape shit when I have to continue to hear about a fighter who has no relevance today. He just has no relevance today.
And I know for some people it's maybe boxing taboo to speak ill will of the late great Muhammad Ali, but I think everybody is entitled to their own opinions, because being boxing aficionados, which we consider ourselves, we understand the sport. We understand how rankings can be manipulated. We understand how there's some fighters out there that, let's be honest, they cherry picked for most of the time. I'm not saying Ali always did, but there were some legitimate contenders out there that were legitimate threats that were overlooked so that Ali could take the lesser guy and expose him, whether it be, a Jerry Corey based on his whiteness or a Joe Frazier based on his stature. He avoided a lot of really good fighters back in the day, I think, for that mere reason. And when he did step in with some of these guys, he almost paid the price. And guys like Ken Norton, what happened in that situation, his first fight against Joe Frazier. So, he wasn't this untouchable,
he gets way too much. They pay way too much credit for being this masterful boxer, and he was a good boxer for his time.
Very unorthodox.
And that's the way I'm going to say it. For his time, he was a good fighter.
Yeah.
Do I think he could compete with heavyweights today? Not a fucking chance in hell. I'm sorry. I don't care who was offended by that. He would not compete with heavyweights today. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm talking guys like Tyson Fury, guys like Lennox Lewis in his prime, Evander Holyfield in his prime, guys like guys like Mike Tyson in their prime. These guys were just bigger, physically stronger. Maybe not so much Tyson, but Tyson wasn't stature wise. He wasn't the biggest guy, but he was strong, and he was an absolute killer in the ring. And
absolutely,
much like in music, I refuse to pay homage to the yesteryears, the figures from yesteryear, simply for the fact that they quote unquote paved the way. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. Are you going to tell me that nobody would have boxed and been slick and moved around if Muhammad Ali wouldn't have done the rope-a-dope first? Give me a break. There was guys that were probably doing it at the same time. He happened to have the spotlight shined on him, so he was able to make certain things and phrases, and the media fell in love with him because of his brashness, and just created this persona. And he was a fighter at the end of the day. He was a boxer, professional boxer, which all respect to him. Rest in peace. But he was nowhere near, in my opinion, not even the top 10 heavyweight that ever lived. In my opinion.
No.
I just don't think so.
There were so many guys that were out there, like Jimmy Young, who obviously, beat guys like Ken Norton and other ones. I mean, there's so many fighters out there that I think had the skill level that was at least, if not as good, about equal. I think the reason why Muhammad got such gets so much shine is because he was a rarity in the sport, in a sense, to where he was different from Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston was more of Sonny Liston, when he said things, people took him seriously. He had more of that Tyson persona, like, don't mess with Sonny because Sonny will knock you out. Where Ali just talked a lot. He was always had something to say about somebody. He was the version of what we're dealing with the Devin Haney's and the Shakur Stevens and the Teofimo Lopez. He was that version of them years ago.
Yeah.
He was the bad guy that became the villain that, and so the people that were kind of shunned from boxing and the people that were kind of shunned from society latched onto him. and said, okay, we're going to make this guy.
Well, especially in the times, the 60s and 70s. And then, it was very tumultuous times. We had the Vietnam War, you had the civil rights movement. So he was able to use all of that to his advantage. He used every last bit of it to his advantage. But I look at someone like Muhammad Ali and his grandson who's now fighting, and I think to myself, well, I mean, he doesn't really have an amateur background. I don't know if he even had any amateur fights. Maybe he did. I don't know. They haven't really talked about it much.
He didn't really have. I think he only had maybe 1 or 2 fights, and it was very, very brief.
I mean, he has the tattoo on his right forearm of his grandfather. He's got the butterflies, which I'm guessing signify, float like a butterfly, whatever. He fights nothing like his grandfather fight. He's more flat-footed and plodding. But whatever. I wish the kid well. There's nothing to really hate about the kid other than because he is remaining humble. If he would have came out there and been all brash and blah blah blah, I'm on this, I'm pretty, I'm this and that, then I would have been like, oh man, somebody knock this kid out. Get this kid in where somebody tough and knock the kid out. But I mean, he's Muhammad Ali's grandson. Muhammad Ali had a wife and then a mistress and another mistress, and he had multiple children. I mean, he's got multiple kids, kind of like Evander Holyfield, whose son also fought on the card, Evan Holyfield. But anyways, Nico Ali watched, I don't know, what are they? I mean, Bob Arum's probably, Bob Arum did promote Muhammad Ali back in the day. I think his first big fight was the Thrill in Manila, if I'm right. He promoted that fight. Anyway, so there's a little bit of nostalgia there. They're getting a lot of press from this kid, and you're going to continue to see a lot of press about him because of the infatuation and the love affair with his grandfather, undeservedly so. I'm sorry if you go off of metrics, right? Metrics on what we consider successful, right? And in my opinion, it's not always wins and losses, but you got to be honest. If someone like Floyd Mayweather lost to somebody like, I don't know, who's the guy that Danny Garcia knocked out? Remember that guy, Rod Salka? If someone like Floyd Mayweather lost to a Rod Salka, right, who had like 4 or 6 fights, there's no way in anybody's conversation would he be considered the greatest or even close to the greatest. Well, the reason I say that is because you look at some of the fighters that Ali lost to, namely Leon Spinks. Leon Spinks had 6 fights and was, I don't even know how to describe. If you go back to YouTube, I challenge people, go back and watch his fights against guys like Joe Bugner. Watch his fights against Leon Spinks. These 2 guys couldn't even fight. Nope. And Leon Spinks beat him and took his title from him. Yeah. Right. So like I said, I mean, could you imagine, could you see an Errol Spence? Could you see a Canelo Alvarez? Could you see a Floyd Mayweather? Could you see Alexander Usyk? Losing to a fighter like this.
No, I've had this argument with so many so-called boxing historians, and I know a lot about boxing. Obviously it's been a huge part of my life for a long time, and there's always these debates out there, and it drives me nuts when I get one of these pioneer guys, one of these old timers that get out there and try to tell me that a guy like Willie Pep is going to beat the great Salvador Sanchez, and I'm like, in what world are you living in? Maybe in his time he was dominant, but look at the competition. I always do this. I have the same approach with music. I do look and respect what was done in history because I understand history in order for me to be successful in the future. And what I mean by that is I'm not going back to mimic their success or try to emulate their success. I'm looking at their failures because there was failures, and I try to build on that on my future so that I don't make those same mistakes. It's no different than a father telling his son, I'm showing you this, son, so you don't make the same mistakes I make. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. You don't look on their successes, look on their failures. Really. Yeah, that's the way to put it. I don't believe, and even in music, I mean, I don't even want to use the word respect because I don't have to respect anybody or anything just because it happened before me. The fact that you were born 20 or 30 years before me or you picked up a bass guitar before me doesn't mean I have to pay homage to you. Kiss my ass with that bullshit. I don't believe that. And I don't believe that in boxing. I just do not believe that in life. I do not. You're supposed to respect your elders. Where is it written that you have to respect? There's nothing. I mean, you can show respect, but you don't have to pay homage to them. I do not believe in that. You're one man, one woman.
I think respect is earned in life or death, no matter what age you're at, no matter what time period of your entire life. You have to continue to respect others in order for them to respect you. That's what it comes down to.
Well, we kind of got off on a tangent there because we were talking about Muhammad Ali, but
yeah, getting back real quick, if I could talk, Nico Ali, what are the things I'm gonna say? I mean, the kid's not without.
What weight does he fight at again? 154?
I believe 154. Yeah,
147.
He fights at
he looks like
super welterweight.
So 154.
Yeah.
Okay.
The guy that he went in against, I mean, he wasn't slim pickings. I mean, this is a guy who came in to win, unlike what Zaya, whatever his name is,
Xander Zayas's opponent
that he faced. Yeah, the thing that really got me was how quick Andre Ward and Timothy Bradley were to dismiss any type of a future, career for Ali based on the fact he got hit with a few right hands. I mean, this is a guy in his second pro fight, and you're already casting doubt of a guy who has zero to no amateur experience.
Well,
whatever talent he has, he inherited. In a sense, the kid had a nice right hand. I'll tell you now, I think he threw a nicer right hand with more pop on it than the Xander guy that Timothy Bradley said. And this is all I'm going to say on that guy. Sits there and says, we're
witnessing greatness.
And I'm like, dude, this guy's fighting against a guy in Karpinski who's not even a fighter. Maybe his brother was a decent fighter who never did anything really relevant other than 2 title shots. He got his ass knocked out. But other than that, nothing. So just because like I said again, just because you're a tough guy in Boston and you can take a punch doesn't mean you're great at what you do.
Yeah, that's like saying Alabama beats up on San Dimas High School. And man, we're witnessing greatness. Well, I mean, yeah, Alabama's great, but not when they're playing San Dimas High School, or not when they're playing, some William and Mary School of the whatever. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. That whole, let's not even waste any more time on that. But I agree. Timothy Bradley is the ultimate flip flopper. He's critical 1 minute, the very next minute he's paying respect. I mean, he just flip flops based on what he sees in the ring. Andre Ward, to his credit, kind of stays on the straight and narrow. He doesn't waver. The same thing he starts the fight saying is the same thing he'll say at the end of the fight. Whereas Timothy Bradley is just all over the place. I think those headshots from Ruslan Provodnikov are really starting to take effect on that guy's brain.
Well, let's be honest. There was a conflict of interest to the entire telecast. I mean, Andre Ward shouldn't have been doing anything with it. Everybody knows he has a vested management investment in Shakur Stevens.
Yeah.
So for him to even speak on Stevens during the fight, I mean, that's no different than if you were to bring up Bob Arum and have him speak on, Teofimo's behalf fighting against Lomachenko.
Yeah, or let Bob Arum call the fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay when they know he has a vested interest in Tyson Fury.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so I mean, sense. Don't get me wrong. So jumping back to what we were talking about with Shakur Stevens, why don't you go ahead and give me your take right off the top about the.
Well, let's jump into that. So Nico Ali Wash wins by second round TKO, whatever. A little bit of a quick stoppage, but whatever. In the main event, because we're going to jump right over the co-main because it's not even worth discussing. In the main event, Shakur Stevenson wins by 10th round TKO, takes the WBO title from Jamel Herring. And I when I was talking about this fight yesterday, as I was narrating to myself and thinking about it, I'm thinking, well, this is Bob Arum had a plan the entire time, and this was the plan. I mean, it went to perfection, which is why 2 fights ago, when Herring technically should have lost that belt, I believe to a Kendo. Who did he fight? The guy where he quit.
Kendo.
He basically
Jonathan
quit. It
Kendo,
was a 6th round. He quit. There was no head clash. There was nothing that caused. If the fight would have been, they should have went to the scorecards is what should have happened, and Okendo should have been crowned the WBO 130-pound champion. Well, that would have just completely derailed Bob Arum's plans to get Shakur Stevenson that belt. Okay. So Absolutely. As a result, what happened? Something that happened on the fly, almost like the tuck rule for Tom Brady the year the Patriots won the Super Bowl, the year of 9/11. The same thing happened. They invented a rule on the fly. They gave the fight to Herring, retained his title, didn't lose a belt, so that he could save him for this. He knew, I think he knew that Carl Frampton, even though he challenged for the title, Carl Frampton wasn't going to be the guy to beat Jamel Herring.
No.
He actually probably wanted Frampton to win that fight because then he could do the, Ireland versus America, and this is the coming of age, the new superstar in boxing, Shakur Stevenson. But at the end of the day, Shakur did what he had to do, but he had a guy in there that did not match him physically because he did not match him mentally. And all the antics pre-fight, right? I'm not saying Jamel Herring had to do something out of character and trash talked and been, vulgar or just basically ignorant like Shakur was acting, but you have to return fire with fire. You have to, there's a mental game that happens in boxing as well as a physical game. And the minute he didn't match that mental game, right? I'm not saying you had to employ the same tactics, but you had to match him word for word, shove for shove, stare for stare. You had to. This subdued, everything he said he wasn't going to do is exactly what he did. Well, I'm not here just to give my belt away, blah, blah, blah. And that's exactly what you did.
That's exactly what he did.
As evidence, right after the fight ended, as evidence, the look on his face, he was maybe a little stunned that the referee stopped it. But after about, I don't know, 1.2 seconds, he realized, hey, you know what? I did my job. I got probably a career high payday. He goes and hugs Shakur. Somebody far too happy to lose a fight.
We've said this several times before in the past. When a fighter is way too happy and way too content and accepting of the defeat, especially humiliating defeat, and I'm gonna use the word humiliate. I'm gonna be a little bit heavier, a little bit more raw. I think Jamel Herring was in a position that he never should have been, that he never really earned in the first place. Let's be honest. Jamel Herring was a second-tier fighter who won a championship. He was never really a championship level fighter. He got this when he dropped down in weight. He was a bit of a weight bully, gets this title, is fortunate in his fight against Carl Frampton to catch Carl Frampton. Sometimes fighters just reach that point where they get a little old. Frampton's reflexes just weren't what they were, you know. God bless, you know, the Jackal for all the great memories, but he wasn't the same Carl Frampton. So he gets that victory, and for this, they propel him, the weakest champion of them all, you know, to Shakur Stevenson, so they could kind of set this guy up, you know, to be like, you know, the pinnacle. The bottom line is I don't ever want to see Jamel Herring fight again. Obviously, whatever he learned, I'm grateful that Jamel Herring is not a part of the U.S. military today, because the man has no killer instinct. I don't want a guy like that guarding the wall. Let's just say that. The guy has no business boxing anymore at this point, unless he's going to go fight guys over at the Blue Horizon or some shit. Other than that, he has no business. Shakur Stevenson,
yeah, he just lacked the basic
no killer instinct.
No, yeah, you have to have that in boxing.
And I hate to use Shakur in a positive thing, but Shakur had the killer instinct. He said since day one, he got in Jamel's face, and he told him, I'm going to kick your ass. He had that same mentality. You saw it coming when he was walking to the ring, when he got in the ring, and when they went to touch gloves, he was still talking. See, Shakur was smart. He put himself, the one thing Bo Mack was not able to install. You can teach him whatever you want to do, but if the man doesn't have a killer instinct, it doesn't. Bottom line is, you can make a gun, but if you don't have a trigger, it's not going to do nothing. So the bottom line is, he had no trigger. You know?
Yeah, and Bo Mack, to speak on Bo Mack, not only is this guy doing a disservice to his fighters, because he wasted 20 seconds in each intermission because it took him that long to ascend the stairs. The guy is so completely out of shape. The guy's going to drop dead of a heart attack. The guy is he's completely obese. And I remember after the first round, I'm thinking, okay, 5, 10, 15 seconds. I'm thinking, where's his trainer? Finally, at about the 20-second mark, 25-second mark, he gets up. He finally makes it, ascends the ring apron, and starts talking to Herring. And at no point did he give him any credible fight plan, direction. No. All he said was, rough him up. You got him, push him back. Rough him up, push him back. And I text you and Eric, all that herky-jerky feinting that Jamel kept doing, I said to myself, what is he doing? Why is he wasting unnecessarily, expending energy unnecessarily? Does he think he's going to trick Shakur Stevenson into falling for one of his half-ass feints? He's not that kind of a fighter, Jamel. You should have bit down on his gum shield. He's 35 years old, dug your feet in, and just let your hands go. Let the chips fall with him. If you get caught and you get dropped, all right, then you know what? Get up. It isn't like Shakur Stevenson is some devastating puncher.
Go out on your shield, man. That's all you could do. But he looked like a devastating puncher against a guy who's just standing there, you know, and not really giving any type of
resistance
whatsoever. I think the bigger issue I got with Bo Mack is Bo Mack reminds me of one of these high school coaches, or it can even be a semi-pro football coach, or even whatever. A guy who, you know, he's got this terminology, but he's not a technically sound trainer in the sense where, say, like a Robert Alcazar, who understands all the technical and he knows the lingo that is used within the sport, and he actually gives direction. And he has a fight plan, so he has, okay, I got here. If this happens here, then I'm gonna move here. Bo Mack doesn't have that. He goes by instinct. He's a guy that goes by instinct. There's some coaches out there that are successful at doing that. They can go by instinct. They don't know all of the little, you know, the little jibber jabber, little mumble jumble, the quotes and stuff, but they go by instinct. That's Bo Mack. He just goes by instinct. You got to rough him up. You got to do this. You got to put him in a headlock. You got to whatever, you know, it doesn't make any sense. But he doesn't have, I mean, look at his days even with Terrence Crawford. There's so little conversation in between the rings. I mean, it's just like, come on, bud, you know, show him, put the shine on him, put a shine on him. I'm like, dude, come on, you stop this shit. You know, it's like,
yeah, he had no direction. At some point, I thought to myself, Bomac, what do you like? Are you going to give this guy, because this guy was completely confused after the first 2
He
rounds.
didn't know what to do.
He didn't know what to do. He's looking up like this. I mean, he kept looking to his right at Bomac. Didn't really have any direction. He's looking like, what do I do, Dad? What, Pop? What do I do? What do I do now? And there was no.
But you know what though, bro? I'm not gonna throw him at 30. How old is he? 36 years old?
35.
35 years old. At 35 years old, and as many years as you've been in boxing, as many fights as you've had, if he doesn't know what to do when a guy's punching him in the face and beating his ass, well, he doesn't belong in boxing anymore.
I think the speed was the one thing that he was not ready to contend with, because Stevenson's, he's fast hands, but Bomac should have been, instead of telling him you need to rough him up, you need to, he should have been, hey, you need to get in this guy's chest. Stop being hesitant. Get in his chest. Can I get? Whenever they were in the clinches and they would come out of the clinches, Stevenson was right there letting his hands go. And at a couple times, I thought the referee Mark was maybe going to give him a warning because he was trying to punch on the break. Yeah. At no point did Herring ever throw a right hook in the entire fight. I don't think I saw a decent right hook. And Bomac's job would have been, man, listen, when you guys are clenched up and you're coming out of that clench, I need you to let me have a right hook. Can you please give me one good right hook? Because this kid's chin is wide open and he's opening up. That's the one thing Shakur does, but he was able to do it against Jamel because nothing was coming back. He was dictating the pace.
Either. When they were in close, he was throwing no uppercuts. He was doing nothing. When he had Shakur's back against
right hooks and uppercuts.
Times, what happened? I'm going to hit him everywhere. I'm going to hit him in the arms. I'm going to hit him in the chest. That guy wasn't throwing any punches. He was already gun shy from the early rounds. He took a couple. I think he felt Stevenson's power. Not that it's overwhelming power, but it was more than he wanted to deal with for the rest of the night. I honestly thought around the 6th, 7th round, I thought that Jamel was looking for a way out. I thought you could see it in his face. It was almost like, if they would have stopped the fight, if Bomac would have said, that's it. There wasn't going to be any resistance from Jamel. He was just kind of going through the motions at that point.
Far too happy. Just somebody far too happy to.
I lost a lot of respect for Jamel Herring. I'm sorry.
I lost respect for him when he quit against Oquendo. I was fuming at that fight. We talked about that fight. Yeah. And then time went by and I didn't think much about it. And then he fought Frampton. And of course I was rooting for Frampton, but I gave him his respect. He said, hey, he did what he needed to do against Frampton. Maybe he's redeeming himself for that one off or whatever. But I don't know, man. At the end of the day, like you said, bro, his mental state is not there. It's time to call it a career.
Well, the thing is that I'm not going to say Jamel's ever had this killer instinct, but to have zero effort. I honestly look at this. If I was to go back and if I was a teacher and I was rating his performance on effort, I would give him an F because there was no effort. Even the times when it was so desperate that the ESPN commentators were so desperate for Jamel to do something that in the 5th round when he kind of threw a couple punches and he kind of backed Stevenson up a little bit, they talked about that for 3 rounds later on. I'm like, dude, it's like this is a guy who didn't belong there. He was a bust. Like I said, the guy just needs to retire. He embarrassed himself.
Yeah. That
whole hugging and, like I said, there's no fire. And when you don't have any fire as far as being a boxer or something, you don't have any reason being in the ring. There's got to be at some point where you're gonna push the pedal to the metal. And he doesn't know how to do it. Never knew how to do it. So now it's time to say goodbye.
Yeah, go play tennis or go play something where you
go enjoy his kids, go enjoy his wife. Hopefully made a little bit of money, put some money back. Don't train fighters though, because I don't want you training any fighters. I thought Mark Breland didn't have fire. Dude, this guy makes Mark Breland look like Mike Tyson, dude. I'm serious.
All right. Well, okay, so let's talk real briefly. Okay, we're about halfway through the show. Let's talk real briefly about where does Stevenson go from here? Because right away he starts calling out Oscar Valdez, and I have no problem with him calling out Oscar Valdez. But one thing I do not like, the first thing that came out of his mouth is, "You can't keep running, you can't keep ducking." At what point was Oscar Valdez ever ducking that kid? He's not ducking that kid. It's that kid. He's like Teofimo was calling everybody out before he even had any credibility to do so. There was nothing, no foundation there. He's calling out Valdez, right? He's saying, "Oh, you can't keep running. You can't duck me. This is the fight." Well, I want to see if the.
Well, here's
why would Valdez, who just fought Burchell, why would he fear this guy?
Well, the easy way to end that whole entire argument. So any of the minions out there, what I call the sheeple, the casual fans, they're going to side with Shakur, trying to make it look like, oh yeah, he's calling out Valdez, and Valdez don't want to. Okay, first of all, why is Valdez going to pay any attention to a guy who's not even fighting in his division? The guy just recently went to that division. Okay.
Yeah, he just went up to that.
So division. He just recently went up to. So Valdez is like, I can't even discuss a fight with you until there's actually a mandatory, or there's a contract, or there's some sort of one of the sanctioned bodies is saying, hey, Shakur's within, that range where you could fight him. So it's just bullshit. It's no different than, Devin Haney calling out, I'll get better yet, Teofimo calling out Josh Taylor. It's the same bullshit. He hasn't had one fight at 100 at that weight at the junior welterweight division, but he's already calling out a guy, making it look like, oh, you're chicken, you don't want to fight me. No, dummy. I'm not gonna fight you because I can't fight you.
Yeah. I have guys in my division to fight. What am I going to waste my time?
No, what am I telling? Hey, everybody, Shakur was calling me out, talking shit, says something about my mom, so I got to fight him. It's real simple. The one thing that Oscar Valdez possesses at such a high level that Jamel Herring never did is a killer instinct. Oscar Valdez has shown time and time again. This is a man who's been dropped on his ass against guys like, Sylvania. I mean, you name it. I mean, this guy has been
had his jaw broken against Scott Quigg.
Yeah. And always finds a way to get up. Winning against a monster Burchell. People would say, I like how people dismiss Burchell, like maybe he wasn't so much a monster. Why? Because Valdez was spectacular in his performance. Rather than give Valdez credit for his spectacular performance, they would rather tear down Burchell for past performances. And it just didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I encourage that fight. I would love to see it. And I'll tell you something right now. Shakur will have his moments, but the one thing that Bomac was right that Jamel never did was make it a dogfight and see if Shakur can last in those later rounds. I will guarantee you this, Oscar Valdez will.
He'll make it a dogfight.
Oh, yes, he will.
And he'll do it with style and substance too, because he's a good fighter. He's a classic. He's not a flat-footed brawler. He's a boxer puncher. He can jab.
He's a guy that throws very, very polished combinations at the right time. He's a guy that sees his move 3 moves before.
He's not going to be throwing one half-hearted punch at a time like Jamel Herring. That's for damn sure. And he's a similar size, height-wise as Shakur. Shakur might be a little bit heavier than him naturally, but Oscar Valdez is he's
how big Burchell was, so that's not going to be a problem. Burchell was a monster.
Yeah, Burchell was very big. Sorry about that.
Yeah. But yeah. So that would be a very interesting matchup, whether it's going to happen or not, but we'll see. Because there's another thing is Shakur can't come in thinking, okay, I'm going to be the A side on this, because even though he's a guy that gets a lot of publicity, and a lot of tout from ESPN, he doesn't hold that crown jewel, and he didn't beat that supreme champion like Oscar Valdez. Oscar Valdez beat the unstoppable Miguel Burchell. Beating Jamel Herring doesn't put you in that same class. So you're going to have to come in the B side. You're going to have to sacrifice a little bit of up money. If you go in there and get these ridiculous, what I call the Crawford demands, since, it's going to be impounded in your head, since that's a big bro, you're going to push yourself right out of a fight.
That's true. And like you said, there's some other good fighters at 130 pounds.
A lot of good fighters at that division right now. A lot of good fighters,
Yeah, you got some guys at 126 that'll probably be coming up pretty soon.
So let's jump into let's talk about a fight coming up this week that we're excited about. We have a personal connection to it. I know, especially you. Why don't you talk about it, bro?
Yeah, well, the upcoming fight, Saturday, another ESPN card coming from the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden, which I guess is a smaller theater there in New York. Jose Cepeda is staying active again. I mean, he just had the fight a few months ago against Hank Lundy. He's staying active again. They're throwing another kid in front of him. They call him, it's pronounced Josue Vargas.
Josue Vargas. They call him the prodigy. Yeah.
What is he? 19-1 or something? He's respectable. He's a good fighter. But, obviously, as I looked at the odds, I had Neil check on the odds, and Chon, there's no money to really be made on this fight because Chon is a pretty heavy favorite. But this kid, this is a young southpaw, and he's going to probably, it might take a little while for Chon to figure him out. But I'm happy that Chon is getting the main event, which he deserves. He's been doing nothing but winning for the last 2 years, all through COVID. He put on the fight of the year for 2020 when he knocked out Baranchek.
In past 2 years, if you go back, if you actually watched the fight against Ramirez and scored it, Chon actually won that fight. So in reality,
and he beats Pedraza. If he was an underdog in that fight and clearly had his way with Pedraza, I think I gave that maybe like 7 rounds to 3 is how I scored that.
It was
fight.
Probably the most dominating defeat that Pedraza has ever suffered in.
With the exception of maybe the getting stopped by Tank.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pedraza doesn't get outboxed
No,
and shown
Pedraza's
clear.
back. He's back in form again too. That shows you that Pedraza wasn't dipping at that time.
And that's what I think is happening here. And I talked about this at the gym on Saturday. I don't understand why. I know if Chon wants to stay active, okay, there's one thing about staying active, right? But it should be on a maybe like a Zanfer promoted card. But Bob Arum and Top Rank, they do not promote Chon. They co-promote him. He's basically being loaned to them through Zanfer Promotions. And I don't understand why they just keep throwing guy after guy after guy in front of him. They're trying to get him to lose. Exactly. They want him to lose so they can say, hey, we're done with this guy, because the public is not going to stand by and let Chon Cepeda get overlooked. He's been the mandatory now for well over a year and a half, right? He's a lot like Tim Zhu. They're not going anywhere.
Well, it's real simple, bro. Who promotes Josh Taylor? Who's Josh Taylor with?
Top Rank.
Exactly. So that's what it comes down to right now. Let's be honest. I love Josh Taylor. I think Josh Taylor is an amazing fighter. He is the one and only guy I feel right now, until Canelo Alvarez fights Caleb Plant, that actually earned his unified title. He earned it the hard way, one fight after another. But do I really feel like Taylor has Chon in his scope? No. Chon is the kind of guy that, after seeing what he did to guys like Baranchuk and others, and going back and watching the Ramirez fight, knowing that in reality, even going back farther than that, to when Chon had that debacle against Flanagan back in England, Terry Flanagan, what happened with his shoulder, to realize this man should be undefeated at this time right now.
Yeah.
And he's got the highest knockout ratio in that division. So he's the type of guy that, you can go in there and be successful. Unlike his fight against Regis Prograis, where it was a back and forth battle. Regis Prograis is a big puncher, but he's not Chon Cepeda. So you can be up a couple of rounds, and all of a sudden Chon unleashes that monster stuff, and it's good night, sweet prince. That's it.
Yeah.
They're going to avoid him. I will guarantee you, if they put Chon and two other fighters, and Chon's the higher dollar one right in front of Josh Taylor, and I'm not trying to say Josh Taylor is scary. He's just been a good businessman. He's going to say, well, we don't need Cepeda right now. Let's go take this right now. Because Cepeda is a threat at anybody at 140.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to me, he's an uncrowned champion. I thought he beat Ramirez, and I thought it was a travesty what happened to him there on that decision. But, that's the politics of boxing. But I don't know.
Want to trip him up. That's what they want to do.
That's what they're continuing to try to do. And they're trying to throw another guy at him. He's the favorite coming in, right? But it's almost like he's being treated like the B-side, because why would a Southern California native, a Mexican-American fighter, fight in New York City where the Puerto Rican fans are going to be in full force, supporting the East Coast fans? He's going to have the judges against him. The fucking referee's going to be against him. The announcers going to be against him because they love to tear him down. I just don't understand. I really don't understand. If I could talk to Chon, I would tell him, why did you take this fight? I don't care what they're paying you. Why are you taking this fight? You do not need to take this fight.
It's an unneeded risk. And I'm going to tell you why, bro. Go back and look at Jose. I've watched about 3 or 4 of his fights, Jose Vargas. He's a younger version of Hank Lundy. As you know, Chon didn't look spectacular against Lundy. Chon fought a little bit cautious because he understood that even Lundy at his age and on the downside of his career, he's still a very dangerous person. And there's no reason to take a unnecessary risk and get into a Baranchuk shootout like he did before. He needs to give the body a little bit of time to recuperate.
Yeah.
Jose Vargas is a younger version of where Lundy should have been. So they're going to put a guy in there who has that weird clubbing punch that he throws and he moves. That's exactly what I figured. We put a guy who's a bit younger, maybe a little bit faster, he's a little bit more fleet of foot. Maybe he can go in there and outpoint Chon. It's definitely a setup. It's definitely a way to derail Cepeda. I think Cepeda needs to make a statement in this fight. I think Cepeda needs to go in there and show absolutely no respect. Maybe fill him out for a round, maybe 2, then knock him out, go home and tell Bob Arum, get the contract ready. I'm coming for Josh Taylor. And I don't care if it's in England or wherever it's at.
Yeah, and he needs to say, "This is it. This is the last fucking prelim I'm doing."
Put
this
lawsuits, whatever it takes. I mean, the guy's number 1 across the board.
He's
what
number
else,
one
what
fighter.
He got to do?
Yeah.
So who's going to leap jump him? Who are they going to get next time? They're going to give Teofimo? Why? Because they're going to see more money with Teofimo with Josh Taylor? Bullshit. I've got a better idea. If you're not going to allow Chon to fight against Taylor, and it's Teofimo's the next guy, then you give Teofimo to fucking Chon Cepeda. Make that happen.
Yeah.
Give Chon the money that he needs. Chon will send Teofimo back into retirement, and then he can go handle business with Josh Taylor. The bottom line is, I've noticed in every interview when they were talking to Josh Taylor just recently, He doesn't mention Zepeda's name. Everybody else, even Prograde's names come in. I mean, all these other, it's always Zepeda's always ignored and left out of the conversations. At this point, it's plain and clear what Bob Arum's intentions are. He knows Zepeda can go in there. And if Zepeda takes that championship, that unified title, Zanford is now in charge of the 140-pound division.
Exactly. That's very true. He's what do they call it? The elephant in the room. It's like he's there. He's not going anywhere.
Everybody else in that division's all top rank except for Zepeda.
Yeah, Zepeda. Yeah, you're right. Zepeda.
But Zepeda takes that thing. He goes back with Zanford. He's got negotiating skills. Guess what? I don't have to play the low ball. Now it's all my game.
Now it's all, and Zanford, I could go fight guys at the PBC. I could go fight guys, for the zone fighters. You know what I mean?
Let me tell you this, bro. Zepeda is in one of the most blessed positions right now. If Zepeda gets that opportunity, which I know he won't squander, and gets that fight, get past this fight and don't take any more, gets that big fight, and let's say he defeats Josh Taylor, which, I feel that he has all the skills and the power to do. Zepeda, I think, is fun. You always talk about fighters coming into their man strength. Well, Zepeda came into what I call his man brain. He finally realized, you know what? I'm a pretty badass dude, because he's such a nice, soft-spoken guy. But Zepeda, unlike Jamel Herring, he does have a mean streak. It just takes a while sometimes for him to kind of figure it out. But he figured it out. But the bottom line is Zepeda wins that 100. He's got to understand, winning that unified title takes him from being what people consider a really good fighter to a great fighter to a Hall of Fame fighter to mega. I mean, we're talking stepping up to Walt. We're talking Errol Spence. Who knows what happens at this point?
Yeah.
The bottom line is, it's all up to Zepeda. He can't make these. He can't let people speak for him. It's him in there doing these battles. He's got to say, you know what? This is it. After I knock this big mouth Puerto Rican, from New York Vargas out, it's Josh Taylor or nothing.
Yeah. I'm not going to fight a rematch with Ramirez, because I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to, you're not going to try to derail me with another guy, Catterwall or Regis. And they've been trying to do this his last few fights. I'm telling you, man. I'm thinking, how long does a guy have to wait?
How did Catterall get that? Was that a mandatory or was it voluntary on that fight?
It's a mandatory. And apparently that fight got pushed back because Josh Taylor got injured or something like that. See, that fight got pushed back a couple weeks. He had like an arm injury or something like that, which leads me to our next topic, Dillian White. We'll just be brief, but Dillian White, another UK guy that he does more fighting or better fighting with his mouth than he actually does with his fists. His fight with Otto Wallin has been postponed, and I don't even know if they postponed it, if it's just off at this point. I don't think I've seen a rescheduled date. And I think he thinks, well, now that the WBC has promised me, I've been the mandatory for WBC, now that it no longer belongs to, the WBC belongs to Tyson Fury. Now I'm going to get my shot at Tyson Fury. I think he thinks that's going to happen. I'm going to get my shot at Tyson Fury now.
Unless Eddie Hearn, just as a guilty pleasure, wants to promote this and put this in his backyard, like he did all those fights for a while and stuff, in order to just kind of appease him and his friends. There might be some money there. But let's be honest, the general public, especially here in America, we're not clamoring for anything from Dillian White, based off of his last performance, his performances against Povetkin. We saw what happened, and we saw how he could be exposed. If he does get a shot against Alexander Usyk, and for some reason they do the kind of like sidestep Wallin, which I think Wallin was a legitimate threat. Here's a guy that has experience through sparring. He sparred against some really good fighters. He knew what to do against. I'll be honest with you, had a better game plan going into the fight against Tyson Fury than Deontay Wilder did, and did much better.
Yeah.
But was he going to be successful against Dillian White? He had a good shot. But I figured Dillian White is probably in the same situation as Zepeda is. He probably thought about it, looked at it, and goes, you know what? I'm not fighting this fight. I want the champ or nothing. And that's what it is.
Yeah, I can't get mad at him for that.
No, I can't get mad.
I can't, because he's been the mandatory.
And that was the one thing. That was the one thing I was going to say when we left the Zepeda conversation real quick, was that if for some reason we know Zepeda is going to handle Vargas, we know that Taylor's going to handle Catterall once that fight happens. But if Taylor takes another UK fighter or another thing, the writing's on the wall. Okay, the title's been hijacked. So at that point, there's got to be some injunctions, got to be some litigation. There's got to be something. Zepeda's got to get that chip on his shoulder.
They'll split those titles up. They'll do exactly what they did to Tyson Fury. They'll take those titles and split them up.
I think Zepeda's going to have to go on national television and grab the guy's national flag and tear it on there. Do something to get under this guy's skin. You got to do something, man.
Yeah.
Because you can't sit back and wait for opportunities because they do not come knocking at your door, man. You got to
you got to the grease. What do they say? The squeaky wheel gets the oil. You got to at this point. And like I said, I'm going to send Chone's brother a message and tell him, hey man, just remember, you guys have everything against you this Saturday. You have the refs against you. You're traveling across the country. You're going to New York. You got to adjust to everything there, right? You have to know that you guys are up against it. If it's a close round, you got to know they're going to be giving that close round to the Puerto Rican kid.
This kid has eked out decisions like that before, bro. And I'm going to use this analogy that you've always used for so many years. You say it all the time. Alabama loses a game against Clemson. Alabama drops 1 or 2 spots. USC loses a game to fucking out to somebody, and they're out of the top 10. If Zepeda loses to Vargas, he will never get another shot in this era. They will drop him out of consideration. There'll be so much red tape and so many people to try to leap bound just to get inside there. It's done.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
His best bet would be to drop down to 135 if he can and go after, Tiafimo or something, or sign with leave Zamford, sign with Top Break, and then maybe Bob. That's what Bob wants. Bob's waiting for Zepeda to come in and get on his knees and say, hey, Bob, please help me. Zepeda's too proud.
Well, it's not only that. Getting out of a Zamford contract. I mean, you got.
Yeah, we know.
You got a better. You got a better chance of. I don't even know what analogy.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. You're not getting out of that Zamford promotion at all.
No. But like I said, I mean, I think it's going to be an entertaining fight.
The blood contract.
We'll see what happens. So, other than that, what else we got coming up? Is what have they announced any fights on the undercard for that?
Well, in 2 weeks. I mean, I haven't really heard about the undercard. I looked at it. I didn't really see anything super exciting, but a week from this coming Saturday, we have the pay-per-view, Caleb Plant versus Canelo. The undercard for that is shaping up to be a stinker. I think Andre Durrell is on the card. I mean, don't get me wrong. Listen, on paper, it's a stinker. It could end up being fantastic. We could end up getting a fight of the night but on paper, it just doesn't look that impressive. Yeah. So let me see really quick. I'm going to see who's on the undercard for this fight next Saturday.
Well, getting back on that, while you're looking at that real quick, I still speak briefly on that. I know we talked about, you were saying that Caleb Plant is going to put forth, a better effort, obviously against Canelo Alvarez than Jamel Herring did last night against Shakur Stevenson. And I'll absolutely agree with you, because the one thing about Caleb Plant that I will agree, even though I don't like his mouth, I don't like his antics, I do like the fact he's confident. He's confident in what he can do. Caleb Plant will go out on his shield. I don't see him quitting. He's the type of guy who's got real pride. Unlike Jamel Herring, who embarrassed himself last night, embarrasses his entire whatever he had in boxing. Is an embarrassment. I wouldn't even show my face over at Bomax Gym anymore if I was him. Yeah, Caleb Plant's not gonna go out that way. The only problem Caleb Plant's gonna run into, if you go back and you've watched some of Caleb Plant's past performances against Uzeki and some other ones, it's his chin. He's elusive at times, but when he is hit and he's hit straight he gets hurt. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think I think his stamina has been an issue in the second half of the fight. I mean, against
Canelo's had stamina issues too. They both have stamina issues. So hopefully,
but I think lately, I think Canelo, he gets stronger as the fight goes on. In his last several fights, I think he gets stronger. I actually went back and watched most of the highlights from the Lara versus Canelo fight. And man, I mean, Lara at times did really make Canelo look like an amateur.
Absolutely.
His only problem was he was trying to be so elusive that I think he gave away some close rounds because the referees said, "Hey, look, I'm not going to give it to the guy that's basically using every inch of this ring when Canelo is trying to make a fight of it." But if you actually go back and watch that fight could have went either way. It really could have.
I'm going to tell you what really kind of like gave me the confidence to say that I feel that this isn't going to be as difficult of a fight for Canelo, and he's going to win ultimately. And it was that press conference when Caleb Plant tried to sneak in that shot that he tried to sneak in, and Canelo, ducked around, got out of the range of it and came back with what he did. For a moment there, Caleb Plant had this look like, holy shit, where'd that come from? That was almost a preview of what you're going to see. Caleb tries to be sneaky. It's not going to work against a guy like Canelo, who I hate to say it, he's one of the few guys that actually watch tape on fighters. He says it all the time. He studies the fighters he's going to fight. I hate when I see a fighter go out there and go, well, I don't even watch tape. Okay, whatever.
Yeah. They're probably just lying.
Well, that's like Berlanga. Berlanga said that. Berlanga said, I don't watch tape on fighters. Well, guess what? He didn't even watch the Billy Joe Saunders fight. He almost got knocked out.
Yeah.
It cost him. So maybe you should start watching some tape. That's like a football team. Would we ever go to a football game without watching tape on the
No, you got to know. No, you got to know. I mean, you got to take every advantage you could possibly get. And it's actually responsibility of the trainers to really, make it mandatory. Hey, you need to be doing your road work. I'm gonna weigh you every other day, and we need to watch these tapes. We got to see these guys' mannerisms, what they do.
Well, I'm sure. Like I said, when you went out with Renee when he had his victory out in Arizona, let's say for some reason Robert Alcazar can't get tape on the other fighter. I'm sure Robert Alcazar has another plan where he tells them, okay, we're going to go back to plan 2, where you're going to make sure that you keep your hands up, keep your chin down, the basics, just to get back and to see what this guy has. Don't make any silly mistakes. Don't put yourself in a vulnerable situation. High and tight. Just keep it in high and tight until we figure out what this guy's got, and then I'll let you know from that point on. That's what a trainer does.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So there's a fighter named Carabello fighting on the undercard of the Peta Vargas fight next Saturday. I don't know. They're still only showing the 2 bouts, so I'm guessing they're probably going to fill that card up before midweek. We'll have a better idea of what that fight or what that card. I mean, we'll probably get a decent card out of Saturday, and then like I said, then the following week we got Canelo Plant. 2 weeks after that we got Porter versus Crawford.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, so we do have some fights. We're going to finish off 2021 strong. Let's just knock on wood. Let's pray that nobody gets injured. Nobody tests positive for COVID. Nothing derails these.
Hey, from this point on right now, I know we're getting close to the end here, but skipping up to Porter Crawford, just based on some of the press conference and based on some of the interviews and some of the discussions of both Porter and what he's doing in camp and what Crawford's doing, who do you feel right now, just based on that, kind of has the advantage going into this fight?
The mental advantage or the physical advantage?
Both on different ends. Who do you think is taking the training to another level?
I think Sean Porter, from what I've seen from Sean Porter, the only thing I'd like to see Sean Porter do a little bit less of as he's in camp is do a little bit less of his podcast. I enjoy his podcast. I don't really care for the dorks that sit around there and talk with him, other than Sean Zattel's okay. But his other two buddies, I don't know. They're to me, they're the epitome of a casual boxing fan. But either way, I want him to get a little bit more focused on just let's work on this fight. I mean, because that's time and effort put in when I think you should just be staying focused on just the fight you got coming up. Maybe it's a way for him to kind of blow off some steam and kind of, get out of the routine that is training, and the daunting day-to-day tasks.
Which is understandable. I mean, we all have that. We have it in our music and other things. The one thing that I've noticed though, for the high point for Sean Porter, I like the fact that his dad is really focusing on strength training. I love the fact that he's brought back some of these old football techniques that Sean used earlier in his career. I'm going to tell you why. The one thing Terrence Crawford has problems with is a strong fighter. That's why he has so many issues with Kavalukas in the early rounds. Where Kavalukas' problem was he stopped. Sean Porter doesn't stop. You saw his physical strength against Errol Spence. But if you go back some years before against fights like against Paulie Malignaggi and other people, Sean Porter brought that football mentality, that strength, that very bullish kind of thing. That's going to create opportunities for me because you rush a guy into the ropes like Terrence Crawford, he doesn't know how to react. So his first reaction is going to be just to throw something. And Sean's already looking for that, a la, Rosado and, Beck the Bully. But that's where his advantage is. Mentally, Sean knows what he needs to do. Sean says, I've faced Errol, I faced Thurman, I faced Danny, I faced this. Crawford doesn't really have, he's got measuring sticks. Maybe not in the eyes of Timothy Bradley and Andre Ward, but who does Terrence Crawford has as a measuring stick against Sean Porter?
Indongo?
I don't see that mental thing, and I just see that arrogance in Crawford where he's like, Sean, he's a tough fighter, and it's like, no, he's more than a tough fighter. He's a different product than you've ever faced before. You've never faced a strong fighter who comes to win, who actually won his titles.
It's like years ago when we did semi-pro football. We participated in the CFA, and when the Southwest League came to play us, we demolished them because they were the big cheese in their league. Remember at a certain point, all the non-league games, it was like 20 something to like 1 or 2 losses. It was a complete whitewash because they were just on a different level than us. We were looking down at them. Yeah. It's the same thing with Porter. Porter's been in the big leagues, right? He's playing in the NBA. Terrence Crawford's been over there in the G League putting up 30 points a night, but you're putting up 30 points a night in the G League. It's NAIA versus, I'll give you an example. You remember this guy? We met this guy years ago. We had that all-star game at APU. The head coach for the Azusa Pacific, Sheely is his name. Remember that they won the NAIA championship that year? Phenomenal coach. The last 8 years he's been at Houston Baptist. Man, they haven't had a winning season in 8 years because he's like, I'm on a different level now. I'm in Division I now. And even though they're a lower tier Division I, they're still Division I. This is not the NAIA anymore.
But you know what it is,
and the proof's in the pudding, man.
Yeah. But that's what I'm trying to explain with Terrence Crawford. If I'm his trainer, if I'm Bomac and them, I'm going to try to train Terrence for the thing that the unexpected, the thing that's not supposed to happen. See, they're baiting and they're training Terrence in the same method that they've always done to just peak out that performance that he's always done against inferior competition when you measure it against Sean Porter. The difference is Sean Porter, like you said, he's been at the levels. It's just like, I'll give you a case in point, Shakur Stevens. They're going to make it like, oh, Shakur was so dominating. Yeah, he was dominant in that performance against a guy who's never been dominant. Okay? Sean Porter's been dominant in fights. Sean Porter has got off the canvas, come back, and knocked people out. Terrence never has. Terrence has to understand, I'm facing a different monster in Sean Porter. This is not a broken Kell Brook. This is not a Chinese Chin, Amir Khan. This is not a one-legged Benavidez. This is a man of God who respects his dad, is a versatile athlete, hardened in football and everything. This is a guy who trains in his backyard. He always has. He's going to bring a different mentality to this. He has the support. Does Terrence have that support from K. Curl and Bomac like Terrence has from his father? His father has guided Terrence in the right way. Even in their losing, he still guides him to lose that fight with confidence in the sense to where he's not damaged. You know what I'm saying?
I heard a rumor that Sean Porter touched on it briefly, but I heard a rumor that he not only did he spar with Caleb Plant for this fight, that he's possibly sparring with Boots Ennis for this fight.
Dude, he's been with dude, I'm telling you, his dad was just like, when they asked his dad.
Oh, he even sparred with Durrell, with Andre Durrell.
But they were talking to his dad and they were saying something about Sean looks really strong, and I remember I was looking at the one fight where you sit there and I'm looking at his shoulders like this. And I've seen him wear that blue jacket before. You know what I'm saying? They must not be able to size it, but you can see the seams were tearing in the back. And people are like, well, that's going to hurt his feet. No, that's how Sean's built. He's just doing a different thing. But his dad had this look where usually Kenny Porter will say something. He was just like this. He just had this little smirk, like
this little quiet confidence. Huh?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think they know. All you got to do is go back and watch fights like Terrence's fight against, I'll give you 2 fights. Gamboa, Kavalukas. 2 guys who came forward. Gamboa, not a big guy, but a strong little sucker, man. He was strong. And the times he was able to push Terrence and rough him up was the times he was able to catch Terrence. Same thing with Kavalukas. There's your recipe, Sean. And Sean's much more effective. And Sean could throw punches for 12 rounds.
Yeah, and Sean and the unorthodox punch out of a exchange is the punch that's going to do the damage on Terrence Crawford.
Oh yeah,
not the jab, the traditional jab right hand. It's going to be coming out of a clinch. It's going to be
the feed me uppercut that he does, where it looks like he puts his head. The feed me uppercut where it comes from nowhere, dude.
And then finish it off with a hook. Yeah.
I mean, go back. I mean,
oh, honestly, you know what? And I forgot. 3 days before that fight, we got Tim Tszyu taking on
big test.
Anyway, a big test. They just relocated that fight from the Gold Coast to Sydney. So even more pressure on the young Tszyu because that's his hometown, Sydney. I mean, he lives in Rockdale, which is a suburb of Sydney. This kid is, I was looking last night.
He's not taking the easy road, bro.
No, I was looking last night and watching how excited they were about this Josue, I'm sorry, the Xander Zayas kid who fights at 154. And I'm thinking, How many rounds would it take Tim Tszyu to obliterate Dan Karpinski and get him out of there? I'm going to say 1.5.
I say Dan Karpinski trips on the way, get into the ring apron and stuff, and then, doesn't do anything.
The first right hand Tszyu hits him with, the fight's over. Because that kid throws with bad intentions, and he does not waste punches, and he's patient.
I liked what NOA's people said in his promotion, how they came out and they thanked Tim Tszyu for this opportunity. They're excited about this opportunity because you know why? Because they've been shunned, banned, and exiled since the Munguia fight. Yeah. After he gave Munguia so many fits, everybody pushed this kid out of their radar. And then Tim Tszyu brought him back in. Okay? So why? Because Tim Tszyu, unlike other people, wants to test himself. He's given himself. Who does this guy remind you of who's a champion right now? Castano. There you go, right there. Strong guy. Tim Tszyu's positioned himself with the right fighters, with the right style, with the right physical dimensions. But where he's going. I'm telling you now, I'm excited about this fight. We're going to definitely have to talk about this on Tuesday. As far as go deeper into it, because I tell you, anybody who misses this upcoming fight is going to miss a really good fight. And it's not that it's going to be as competitive as the Munguia fight, because I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be one of those kind of fights that if you're a young boxer out there and you want to see how a fighter evolves and makes decisions, but has pure patience with direct attack, watch this fight.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
He is carving his own path for sure, man.
Definitely. I mean, talk about a guy who doesn't live under his dad's wing. This guy's already carved. You can see it. And they talk. And the one thing I love about Tim Tszyu, and his dad had too, but Tim has a little bit. For being such a humble kid, he's got a mean streak. You could see that in Tszyu. He's got this fire that he just hasn't unleashed. We haven't seen the best of Tszyu yet.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. We have not seen the best at all, but he does. Like I said, he's got a mean streak when he's in there. And when he's
back when he was an amateur. Remember when he first came in, bro? You were like, got to keep an eye on this kid. You could go all the way back then.
He's got a mean streak, dude, for sure.
Yeah, you can see it. He's the type of guy that if you don't get his fucking order right at the restaurant, he snaps at you. He gives you one chance to go and do. I'm telling you, bro.
Yeah, he does look a little bit like that.
He does. I'm not lying.
Sorry, sir. I'm sorry, Mr. Tszyu. Anyways, I saw a video yesterday posted on social media, right? It was maybe at somebody's party, and it was one of those big piñatas, right? And I guess the kids couldn't break it, so they let him just throw a right hand. And I mean, he threw this picture perfect right hand, and this goddamn piñata just shattered and went flying. It reminds me of the time you joined
anyone. I don't want any injuries. I don't want to hurt his hand going to this.
No,
fight.
But he just throws such a strong straight right hand. Yeah. And it's got speed and it's got power. And he's not a physically very imposing guy. He's only about 5'8", 5'9". He's not like this 6 foot.
But you know what? He's one of those anomalies. He's
got the shoulders.
He's like Erickson Lubin.
Yeah.
Erickson Lubin doesn't look like a big guy, but his stature, he's well balanced. Big legs, decent sized upper body. So he's well balanced. So they bring a little bit more to the show. On a closing real quick, I saw some video and I saw some things about Munguia. I think honestly, Munguia is definitely stepping into his man strength. The guy looks he looks like a monster, dude.
Yeah, he's training well. He's looking pretty strong.
Dude, he looks huge.
It's another fight we forgot to talk about. We'll talk about that on Tuesday because that one's coming up in November the 13th.
And I definitely think that Munguia, once he wins the middleweight title, I definitely think there's going to be an opportunity for him at 168, but that's later on down the line. So put some money's there, possibly against Canelo Alvarez. Who knows?
Could be, yeah. All right, bro. We're about 5 minutes over.
Sounds good, bro.
Hey, good show tonight. It was nice talking boxing again. Like I said, we got some spirited conversation. We do have some exciting fights coming up. I mean, the next from here till Thanksgiving, we got some great fights coming up, man. We got great fights coming up. So, like I said, let's just knock on wood and just all say our prayers. Everybody stays healthy. Nobody catches COVID or gets injured or stubs a toe or anything like that. And let's get these fights in the record books.
Absolutely. I'm excited for all of them coming up.
Yep. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Looks like Eric the Red didn't make it. Eric, if you're watching this right now, I hope you're feeling better. I hope you're getting tons of business at your business. For all of us here at End of the Ring, Mighty Mike,
AJ Rage.
Thanks again, everybody. Have a great night. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your grandma. She ain't doing nothing. Have her subscribe and send it to all her bridge partners.
Yes.
Peace out.
Peace out, everybody. Everybody have a great night. Bye-bye.
Bye.